So we got a 6420 we're working on this morning, and customer said that he's having issues with it starting sometimes and running rough. So I've got the EDL plugged in here. We've got the service advisor pulled up with our codes. And when I first started up the first time, I wasn't getting any active codes, but now I'm getting this pump control valve closure too long. And it's sitting here toggling between active and stored. It doesn't sound too bad right now until I give a little bit of throttle. And it sounds terrible. Sounds like it's only running on about half the cylinders. So let's dig into this and figure out what we got going on. So one of the issues with this style of injection pump, which is a Standardine DE10 pump, is the factory wires right here going to the ECU on the back of the tractor are not heavy enough. And so it looks like this one has not been changed before, so we're going to go ahead and run new wires all the way back to the ECU and see if that makes a difference. The wires from the factory were just not heavy enough and won't carry enough amperage, and that's what controls the speed of that pump. New harness made up and ran. Got the new connector with new pins that goes in the back of the injection pump there. I've got it ran underneath the cab. Comes in the back side here. I need to zip tie it up yet, but there's actually a plug right there. I drilled a hole through it and ran the two wires and actually removed the old wires from the connector and put new pins in the connector there. You do not want to just chop the wire and butt connect it. You're wasting your time, in my opinion, because you're bottlenecking. You get a little wire there and you go to a big wire, you're causing a restriction right there. So you always want to do it correctly and actually run the wires into the connector with new pins. 16 gauge wire is what you need to use. Use anything bigger, you cannot get it through the connector very well. So here's the part numbers for the parts I used to make that harness. We've got the two 16 gauge wires, 2Y27051 and a 52. That's a red and a black 1/4 inch loom section. We've got the pins for the ECU, and then we've got the pins and connector housing for the actual injection pump right here. So we fired it up after fixing the wiring harness, or updating the wiring harness, and run it. Sounded good. Shut it off. Tried it again a couple more times, because it seemed like the first time I tried it, or the first time I ran it this morning, first couple times it ran good. Shut it off, turn it back on. Say the third time, started running rough, and that's how it is afterwards. So nothing really changed there. I didn't want to go past without updating that harness though. So if we're looking down through the diagnostics here, has us check a few things here. Low pressure side, I don't feel like we have an issue there, because sometimes when you run it, it never misses a lick. So I feel like it's more an ECU or a pump sticking. So I've got an ECU. We're going to swap it out. That was the next step on it, was swap out with a known good ECU. So we're going to swap it out now. So I forgot to finish filming that project, but the ECU did fix it. And I talked with the customer a couple weeks later. He said everything was running great. So we just had a failed ECU on that tractor that was kind of intermittent. Normally on those ECUs, it seems like they always just die. You go out there and start them up one day and they just won't start up or nothing, and end up being a dead ECU. And you put a new one on it and you go on. But this one's the first one I've seen that's been kind of intermittent like that on this style of ECU anyway.